Welcome to the latest edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez alongside our NBA insider, Bill Ryder, who's all Barca kitted out per usual. You're ready.
Oh, well, today's a big day, as
Today
you
is a
know.
big day.
John,
Yeah, Champions League
Benfica,
continues.
Paramount Plus. Come on, subscribe.
Check out Champions League on Paramount Plus, where I am expecting that eventually they will have us come over and do a Beyond the Arc crossover.
I'm ready. Dude, PSG Liverpool today. There's some good ties today.
Yep, there's some good ones. Go and check that out. All right, later on our show, we're going to talk about the best possible finals matchup for the NBA this season. Shaq thinks that Steph should be in the GOAT convo. We'll get into that, and we'll do team of the night. But first, LeBron James keeps setting records, Bill. He put up 34 points against the Pelicans in a win last night. He now has over 50,000 combined points. So ridiculous to even say that number. Over 50,000 combined points in the regular season and the playoffs together. Not surprisingly, that's the most ever. Bill, the man's 40 years old. We're going to get into where he falls in the MVP conversation and the All NBA conversation. But I just want to marvel at that for a second, that he just keeps plugging along.
I want you to be the one who marvels, because this is going to be a bit of a throwback, but I don't know if you watched the 3-hour SNL 50th anniversary. I actually thought it was funny.
I did.
It was good. They brought back Debbie Downer, so I'm going to be I don't care. I don't care about that. I just my radio producer just sort of brought this up on that, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. It's an arbitrary number. When he became the all-time leading scorer, that I cared about. Mm-hmm. That was riveting. That's amazing. This is super cool, but I don't know. It's I don't care.
You know who this
was? Aaron coughing?
That was Aaron talking. I think he forgot to mute his microphone. We're just doing a live show. It's all good. So you know who this aligns you with, this take?
Who?
Your guy, JJ Redick, who prior to yesterday's game, our guy, Dave McMenamin from ESPN, who's a great reporter here in Los Angeles. He was trying to ask JJ about this, and JJ kept cutting him off, saying, "Can you just ask me about it afterwards? Like, we'll talk about it." Like, he didn't care, like, at all.
That's very JJ.
But
every question's beneath JJ. In fairness, every question shouldn't have been asked.
Okay.
But it's LeBron's amazing. He's amazing. And you use the right word. He is a marvel. And what he has done, it's actually hard to get your sort of arms around when you think about this guy's a, top 1 or 2 player of all time, who's a past first superstar, who also happens to be the all-time leading scorer, and all the other things and accolades we can talk about. His continued excellence today. It's not as if he's, Jackie Robinson at the end of his career. He's still at what should be the end of his road. Really, really great. LeBron's amazing. 50,000 points.
I think that we've become numb to him setting records, right? We get to a 50. I don't think anybody ever thought anybody would get to 50,000 points. And he's set so many records previously that it's just like, you just toss it on the pile. It's just one more on an ever-increasing pile of greatness, and they all kind of get lost together. But let me try to frame it a different way for you, because at the beginning of the season, we had talked rightly, I think, about his on-off numbers not being great. Obviously, the Lakers have righted the ship. He's looked much better defensively. Some of that is Luka taking some of the burden off of his shoulders. But when you start to look at his numbers this season, we've got a graphic comparing his numbers going into last night. The numbers don't tweak that much after last night, but his numbers this season compared to his last MVP season, which was over a decade ago, Bill, when he played for the Heat in 2012, 2013, you can see them there. The points per game, the rebounds, the assists per game. His defensive numbers are slightly down, but his efficiency numbers are roughly the same. Bill, he's basically putting up a very similar season at 40 that he did the last time he won the MVP.
With, as you noted, and this is a very important, it's not for every voter, but it's a very important metric for me, with a team that's good and that is near the top of their conference. I mean, it's not as if he's doing this and they're the 10 seed, where you're like, okay, he's great, but his value only extends so far to lift the team up. They're on this winning streak. You have noted, rightly so, many times. They were outstanding even before Doncic arrived, as I have said, and I think you agree. I think Doncic's arrival is going to extend this level of excellence, because they're not going to have to burn as much fuel when LeBron James. It's going to be the hardest. I said this on HQ the other day, and I said it spontaneously. It's going to be the hardest MVP vote of my career, of my personal. I think I voted for 7 or 8 or 9 of these things, and that's the 1-2. Between SGA and Jokic. I think beyond that, it's going to be brutal because where does LeBron James go? Where do you? I mean, like you just sort of go down the list of some of these guys. It's really hard.
It's very difficult. I want to just pull back the curtain a little bit, break the fourth wall, because so when we send out prior to the show, we send out these links on social media saying, come and join us live on YouTube. And producer Aaron puts together the little thumbnail. And I generally, like, he does a great job with it. And I just generally just send it out without looking at it. Today, I looked at it and I thought on first scan, I was like, he's being maybe like a little hyperbolic, because the prompt was LeBron is having an MVP season again. LeBron should be in the MVP discussion. And I was like, well, I know he doesn't mean one or two, but should he be in the top 5 conversation?
I think so. I mean, so I was thinking about this independently last night. Yeah. I mean, it's not AD. AD's not there, and he was hurt when this run began. It's not Luka, obviously. He's been hurt, obvious reasons. He just got to LA. If the Lakers finishes the 2 seed, and LeBron finishes with the numbers that we just, in the range of what we just looked at.
Yeah, the 2 seed. I mean, that would really do it.
I mean, okay, look at that.
All right, so I'm looking at, I like to look at, various predictive models. Basketball.
Oh, yeah, what are they?
Has a really good.
Yeah, I love this.
Basketball Reference has a really good MVP tracker, and their top 5 has Cat in it, and just outside the top 5, they have Mobley and LeBron.
Look, I'm just doing this off the top of my head. I guess my view is different than the conventional wisdom, because first blush, not having studied it, not having talked to anybody, I think of LeBron over Cat. I mean, this is a Knicks team that was outstanding last year without Karl-Anthony Towns. He comes into that team and enhances them offensively, but it's not as if he's carrying some lackluster shell of a basketball team. This is a Lakers team that has been a play-in team many years running now that has been elevated by LeBron. Also, and we're not talking about this, but apparently Joker's 5-1 and SGA is a huge favorite to an MVP. I think that's crazy. I would vote for Joker if I had to vote today. I think, and I haven't, again, done the soul searching. I think all this stuff I think the narratives have taken hold a little more than they probably should.
Yeah, there's good value on Joker, surprisingly.
There is.
Yes, the narratives absolutely have taken hold. I mean, we talked about this yesterday where, I think there's some Joker fatigue, and SGA is playing out of his mind, and he's got all those 50-point games in his last 19 games, and he's the best player on the number 1 seed in the Western Conference and probably the best team in basketball writ large. And I think, there's a lot of all of that gets sort of baked into it. But yeah, I mean, Joker's numbers are ridiculous. It's interesting, though, that we're even having this conversation about LeBron at 40, where 2 months ago we were talking about, does LeBron need to ask out? Now we're like, man, I don't know. Does he make first team all NBA? And like, again, on first scan, when producer Aaron sent out that thumbnail, I was like, this is a step too far. I mean, I think we're getting a little carried away here, and I'm as bullish on the Lakers and LeBron as anybody, but I don't think it's that outlandish. I think I'd probably still have him outside the top 5 and have him second team all NBA. But what we're talking about now is the difference between second team all NBA and first team all NBA, because now that we do all NBA position lists, it's basically your top 15. And if you're going to put him in the top 5 of the MVP candidates, you're probably going to have him first team all NBA.
And isn't that insane? And if he's insane. A first or a second team all NBA player, I think you're right. He's a lock, at least for the latter. And you buy into the idea that he can be, there's some longevity for him maybe that wasn't there because Luka takes so much of the burden. How long is LeBron able to play at this level? Is it too much? Am I supposed to start entertaining that we're having a talk, even 80% of this level, 2 years from now? Because I think maybe I am entertaining that.
Yes. You and I have had this conversation where I have repeatedly advocated for 45-year-old dad game LeBron.
Or 50.
And this is what I'm talking about. Like at some point it will regress, right? And he will be 70 or 80% of what he's been. But if at 40 years old, he is, 94% of what he did over a decade ago in an MVP campaign, I'm cool with that, man. Let's drag this out. The more one day, Bill, you and I will be sitting here and we'll be like, he made it to 60,000 points. And you're like, I can't do this anymore.
I don't care.
I need him to retire. It's remarkable.
It's amazing. I keep expecting LeBron to play badly, right? Eventually, for age to catch up to him and him to be a shell of himself. And John, I wonder if maybe the way it's going to work is he's just going to be this player until he's just injured. And the decline won't be LeBron's playing 30 bad minutes a game. It's that LeBron's playing no minutes because he's 42 or 45 or whatever, 51 years old, 83, and he's he can't physically do it anymore. I don't have all the superlatives I need to praise the guy for how ridiculous.
Where it's just suddenly like an injury and he goes down and he decides, you know what, I don't feel like rehabbing an ACL like Kyrie's going to have to do.
Exactly.
And it's been a great run. Thank you so much for that. We'll see you guys on the other side. We're going to take a quick break, and then I want to continue this discussion a little bit about the MVP convo, and because LeBron factors into our next conversation, which is the Warriors are rolling, and then Shaq had some really interesting things to say. He said it before, but I kind of missed it. It went over my head about where Steph falls in the GOAT conversation. So we'll pick that up on the other side. This is Beyond the Arc.
Gives it to Jenkins for the championship. A 16 beats a 1. From sweet to elite to the Final Four.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. A reminder, you can get us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Please download, subscribe, leave a review. And then on Spotify, if you look below the play button on the Spotify app in full screen mode, you can tell us what you think about the show or leave a question. It's 2025, and we're having conversations about LeBron James being in the MVP race and being maybe first team All-NBA. And as an addendum to that, Bill, Steph Curry is still out there killing it. They beat the Knicks last night, an easy Warriors win. They're just 3 games back of the Rockets. They keep climbing in the standings. And you flagged this. I missed it last night. But Shaq evidently had some things to say about Steph Curry's greatness while we're talking about it.
As the supreme leader of the Big Man Alliance, I demand you fans to start putting Steph Curry in that greatest of all time conversation. Just start putting him in the conversation.
So the conversation of Jordan,
Mike,
LeBron, Kobe,
LeBron, start putting Steph in that conversation. I demand it.
Why does the Big Man Alliance need to say something?
Because I am the supreme leader and my voice counts. And I'm saying, listen, I played against Mike, played with Kobe, played against and with LeBron. They're all great. But at some point, we're going to have to put Steph Curry in that category. I'm not saying he is, but let's just have the conversation. Like, I like all the internet talk and the barbershop talk, but I ain't never seen nothing like that before, and nobody has. And
pretty special.
And that's how many of them things he got. 1, 2, 3, 4 against LeBron. So I demand that people, you start putting my guy in that conversation. Period.
Amen, brother. Shaq is singing my song, John. When I love this so much.
Okay, so for me, it's a 2-person conversation, and I don't really care who you put 1 or 2. I would go LeBron just because of the longevity and how good he's been, and like at younger age than LeBron. MJ he was doing YMCA dad game. I mean, he was a maniac. He played 82 games in his final season for the Wizards, which is ridiculous. But still, 2-person conversation. I think like I'm cool with putting Steph in that next group, and whoever you jumble into that next group, I think Steph is right there.
Right, I get it, and it's not top 10; it's top 12 or 14 now. So for me, it's For me, it's LeBron, then it's Mike, then it's Kareem, then it's Shaq, ironically, or Steph. For me, and then it's another sort of cater of people. I will say this though: I want to. When Steph won his last title a few years ago and did it without KD, I wrote he's a top 5 player.
Really impressive.
And eventually, that'll be recognized. So I agree with you, but I'm gonna argue. I'm gonna make a counterpoint to your point in my own view. Steph Curry, as Shaq noted, has won every ring in the LeBron era. In fact, LeBron James won his first MVP about 2 months before Steph was drafted. So like Steph has never played in the league where LeBron hasn't been an MVP level candidate, and as we just talked about, he still is at that level. If it's not unreasonable, if the Warriors win a championship this year, not a likely outcome, but I think we agree they're on a list of possible teams.
Non-zero
chance. Steph Curry has more championships than LeBron James, having never left his team, unlike LeBron, having joined in the Warriors what were, I think when he joined, the most hapless organization in the NBA. And I think you could have argued when Steph arrived, before we knew what he was going to become, maybe one of the worst run sports franchises in all of American sports. And I'm not mad at LeBron for leaving Cleveland and going back to Cleveland when it made sense and then going to the Lakers. But Steph never did that. And you could maybe counter with Durant came to Steph, but that's because of what Steph created. So if Steph Curry and the Warriors somehow win this another post-KD ring and Steph has 5 and LeBron has 4, How are you the best player of all time if you weren't the most successful player of your own generation?
Yeah, I think like the statistical argument for LeBron would greater than symbol, but it's close. And you bring
I
up,
think it
and
is
Shaq
closer.
brought it up too, the rings are important, right? I mean, that bonus chip that they got where everybody thought that the franchise was cooked after KD left. I mean, that was an important part of Steph's legacy.
Yeah.
And by the way, I know we live in this universe and not another parallel universe, but in
too bad.
Earth 216 or whatever it is,
Yeah.
if Draymond doesn't get all handsy in that finals run and punch up at somebody's groin, maybe he doesn't get suspended and maybe the Warriors win that one. And then LeBron never gets
You're
the
right.
championship in Cleveland.
And Steph is the focal point of the greatest team in NBA history, with all respect to that Bulls team. You win 73 games and you win the title against LeBron. That's the best basketball team. No, so here's my thing. If Steph gets to 5 rings and LeBron doesn't, does that mean Steph is better than LeBron? I don't know that it does, but at a minimum, it pulls them closer together. And whether that pulls LeBron down or pulls Steph up, for me, it's got to be one. It's either LeBron's 2 or Steph's 4 or 5 as a lock if Steph Curry ends his career. Because I do think titles matter, and the counting stats are incredible. They're incredible. Yeah. But they're in service of one thing and one thing only. That's championships. That's it. That's the goal.
I'm completely cool with having Steph in the top 5. I mean, he's had an unbelievable run, and we've seen everything you said about what he's built in Golden State. It all revolves around him. I mean, he's had some really good teammates, right? I mean, he did have Draymond and Clay, especially at his zenith, was incredible. And then KD went and joined him. Couldn't beat him. So if you can't beat him, might as well join him. But then for him to leave and then win another one is really remarkable. And then this season that we thought again was cooked. They start out 12-3, then the wheels absolutely come off, and then they decide, okay, we can't get KD, let's go get Jimmy Butler, and then that unlocks them again, and it frees up Steph to be Steph. Last question on this Warriors thing as they climb the standings here. If they had gotten KD, same results, do we think that they're still skyrocketing up the standings, or was Jimmy the better fit?
Yeah, maybe it's the better. Here's the thing. KD doesn't want to be there. Obviously, He said no.
Yeah,
so
clearly
Steph sells him into it, and then KD has buyer's remorse the next day or in that phone call or whatever. No, I think this is the better fit because Jimmy Butler's never won a title. And I'm not saying that Kevin Durant's not hungry, but there's sort of a different hunger, a different deal, a different reality when you've never won and you are leaving something by choice, Jimmy Butler, rather than by force would have been Kevin Durant. I just think for those reasons, it's a better fit. I also want to say this closing on the Shaq thing. I'm glad we're having this conversation because Shaq's not saying we need to put Steph 1 over LeBron. He's saying we need to have this conversation. And even just having it, I think, gives Steph the proper shine he deserves, even though the inevitable answer is not he's better than LeBron, but having the conversation, he's good enough that at least the talk should be occurring.
Yeah, it absolutely should be occurring. And by the way, Kevin, you mentioned Kevin Durant not wanting to be in Golden State. I mean, maybe he made the right call, Bill. They had that win over your Clippers last night. So maybe now with the Mavericks imploding, the Suns will somehow just limp across the finish line and pass out into the 10 seed.
When on the podcast from you, John, and all of America, am I getting the, wow, you called it with the Clippers? Because my opening column of the year was they're at best a play-in team. And the collapse is real, baby.
They're going to be a solid play-in team.
Okay.
That's
what I said.
Yes. No, they'll be in that 7, 8, 9, 10 spot somewhere.
They can't catch the Warriors or the Rockets. I mean, they just can't. It's not happening.
No, they're not going to get
they're
out
playing
of the team. Aaron, you got a question for us?
Hey, yeah, we got to make use of this microphone if I'm going to cough in it to start the show. But this dovetails
a little extra flavor for the listeners.
I
did that on the radio show this week.
A little something for everybody. A little treat for your Wednesday morning. So this kind of dovetails with what Bill was saying about Steph winning in LeBron's era. But if we take Shaq's 4 guys that he said in the GOAT conversation, and then to be fair, later on in the show, he mentioned Kareem also. But if we take his initial 4, it's LeBron, MJ, Kobe, and Steph. None of those guys really ran up against each other. They all, there was MJ and then Kobe kind of at the tail end, and then LeBron kind of came in at the tail end of Kobe's tenure. But Steph and LeBron have been trying to crack each other's skull now for 12 or 13 straight years. So does that increase the GOAT conversation for both of them? Does that elevate their status as the GOAT for both of them, because they're the only ones who have been going up against another possible GOAT?
Maybe. It's a good point. I mean, the thing is, I'm not going to downgrade Jordan because Jordan was so great. He destroyed the guy that should have. I mean, Karl Malone should have been a top 10 player at least until we got to, 2005 or 6, and MJ just.
I mean, he ruined that entire era, right? I mean, like, he had a stranglehold over everybody. So I think maybe that speaks more to MJ's greatness than the lack of those other guys being any good. I mean, there was a lot of really good. But Aaron brings up a good point because, LeBron had to go through Steph to win the Cleveland championship, and Steph had to go through LeBron multiple times to win several of his. So that's not nothing. I mean, it probably does buoy both of their cases, right? Because they had another player who was transcendent in their era that made things. It's incredibly difficult to win in the NBA. There's 30 teams, and even the worst teams are, trying at least to win some. I mean, like the Chicago Bulls of the world are dysfunctional and terribly run, but are still an impediment to whatever progress other teams want to make. So to have, a player of that ilk, another top 5 caliber talent in your way is a problem.
And by the way, a lot of fun for all of us that get to just sit back with our popcorn and watch this.
This is why I want as much of it as I can get for as long as we can get it. Right? Like just run them out there. I would like Steph to be playing at 40 when LeBron's playing at 45, and I would be quite happy. So the Warriors, Bill, we mentioned, have moved up to 6. Before we move on from this, they're only 3 games back of the Rockets. Do we think they can catch them?
No, I saw this on Aaron's X yesterday. The Rockets have the easy, like the next 8 games. You ready for this? Pelicans, Magic, Suns, Mavs, Bulls, Sixers, Magic.
Not bad.
I mean, with 20 to go and a 3-game lead, I mean, how many of those games are you actually going to lose? I mean, you're going to win 7 of those 8 if you are. Probably. Well, maybe the Suns are. They're question mark.
They're farther back behind the Grizz. They're 4.5 games back behind the Grizz. But an update on Triple J. We got Jaren Jackson Jr.'s update yesterday. He's got a grade 2 ankle sprain, and he's week to week. Now they're listing him as week to week, but a grade 2 ankle sprain generally, roughly, takes between 3 to 6 weeks to recover from. 3 to 6 weeks is going to bring it right up to the deadline for Jaren Jackson to get those 7 games that he needs to qualify for All NBA. It's going to be right down to the wire. Without Jaren Jackson Jr. and again with John Morant, like who knows what his status is from game to game. Like we saw the wheels come off with Dallas. I mean, it could happen with the Grizzlies.
Yeah, I mean, it could. And the Rockets are going to probably win a lot of these games because they're scheduled. Aaron, I don't know if he looked this up or if he's sort of being facetious, but he said it's the easiest stretch in 8-game stretch in NBA history, and it might be. I mean, the teams the Rockets are playing are largely catastrophes. They're not great.
Yeah, it might be. It might be a Grizz situation for the Warriors.
It also might, to your point. So there's a sort of pressure on Triple J to come back. If the Rockets close the gap, I wonder if there suddenly becomes some pressure on the Grizzlies side to get Triple J back. If you fast forward 2 or 2.5 weeks from now, and they're up a game and a half.
Yeah, John Hollinger brought this point up from The Athletic last night. This because you and I and everybody else is looking at Jaren Jackson's financial situation and him being able to qualify for the Supermax if he clears the 65 game threshold and makes All NBA. And he said, in the unique case of the Grizzlies aren't really disincentivized from playing him. They actually do need him to come back and clear that threshold because they desperately need him. He's the best player on their team and has been all season. The Warriors beat the Knicks last night, just to touch on this real quick, because you did mention Karl Anthony Towns when we were discussing the top 5 MVP conversation. I want to push back just a little bit. You're right that they had a good team. I think the Cat is Jalen Brunson's their best player, but I think Cat might be their most important player because I kept hearing, they kept saying, everybody who watches the Knicks, just wait till Mitchell Robinson comes back. The defense will be better. It'll solve all their problems. Well, they had Mitchell Robinson last night. They didn't have Karl Anthony Towns. And when they don't have Karl Anthony Towns, that team looks pretty lost offensively. And I think like whatever meager chances that they have in the Eastern Conference, Cat was out for personal reasons. It wasn't an injury last night, but man, he just like, Jalen Brunson's the engine. He makes that thing go for sure. But I don't know, Cat's the wheels. You can't ride that thing on the rims.
So you want me to vote for a guy in the top 5 of the MVP who you think is not the best player on the team? I guess it's hard to get there, John.
I think he might be the most. I mean, it's really close between him and Jalen Brunson. I think Jalen Brunson's probably still the better player, but
I do too.
Most important, I don't know. I know Cat's been really critical to them. All right, we're going to take another quick break. And then on the other side, we were going through the standings and, where the Warriors fall in the pecking order and the Rockets and the Grizzlies, which leads us naturally to, what would some of these matchups be in the playoffs? And what would be the best possible finals matchup scenario for the NBA? We've got some differing opinions on that. We'll talk it through on the other side. This is Beyond the Arc.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale. Ronaldo. Wonderful goal.
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
Welcome back to Beyond the Arc. You can find us on YouTube at Beyond the Arc CBS. Please hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and hit the little bell symbol. You'll get notified when we go live. All right, Bill, I was sitting there last night because I lead a full life, just staring at the standings, prepping this show. And I had a thought before we get to like the finals matchup we want to see. As it stands, as the NBA standings are right now, if you're the Lakers, you're thrilled that you're the 2 seed. Wow, what a great season we've had. The Nuggets, hey, we've had a really good season too. They're the 3. The Golden State Warriors, from a play-in team where they fell like a stone earlier in the season, now out of the play-in into the playoffs proper at 6. However, despite all of those being positive things, that would put all 3 of them on the opposite side of the bracket from Oklahoma City and would be a pretty tough road for either of those 3 teams. Whereas if you're Oklahoma City, that's best case scenario. That's like a glide path to the Western Conference Finals for you.
I mean, it's all coming up okay. See, there's obviously time for movement for these things to shift and to change. But you're right. Like as it stands on paper right now, it will be a dogfight. It will be an absolute dogfight in the Western Conference on the non-OKC side of the bracket.
If it stands 20 games left and we go to the playoffs this way, and it's the Warriors against either the Lakers or the Nuggets in the first round.
Oh,
and then
give it to me. Put it in my veins.
I mean, and then whoever doesn't play the Warriors likely would play the winner of that game in the second round. And then, oh, by the way, now you've got Oklahoma City. And that's an incredibly difficult path. That is,
by the way, I don't think the Timberwolves are going to, we've talked about sort of our my certain doubts about the Timberwolves. If they win a 7-8 game and they play the 2 seed, and if they play the Lakers, you're still, as the Lakers, playing a team that was in the conference finals last year. So even the opening round matchup, if you avoid the Warriors, could be tricky. But I think the Warriors' best case scenario is 6. I don't think they're going to catch the Rockets for reasons we talked about. So I just need Denver to get hot because give me Lakers Warriors first round.
So you want it first round?
I do, because I want to be guaranteed that it happens. I guess it does eliminate one of them, and then the winner can play Denver, right?
One of them moves on
to Denver. To play Denver, to play Joker.
Which would be really fun. And then you're guaranteed that one of those teams is almost certainly going to play Oklahoma City in the Western Conference Finals.
Right.
You're selling me on this now, because now all of a sudden this is super entertaining, which is kind of why we wanted to have this conversation to begin with. So I was on with Eric Casilius last week, and he just asked me a question that was like, pretty basic radio conversation topic where it's, what's the best possible finals matchup? And my snap answer was, oh, well, it's Oklahoma City and Boston because you've got the defending champs against the best team in the Western Conference. And the more I thought about it, I was like, well, no. Like if we're just talking purely entertainment, I think it's probably Lakers Celtics or Joker Celtics.
I think that I was thinking about this. I think the absolute dream finals matchup is a little counterintuitive. By the way, the context for this needs to be the worst from the NBA's perspective, not you and me.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking.
Is Thunder Cavs, which could very well happen. It's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare. And you know what? For those of us who like basketball, we'd be happy to watch that. It would be a good series.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Yeah.
From a marketing perspective, from a PR
Brutal.
perspective, from a ratings perspective, and then a narrative perspective, which would be all the people who say the product is broken and nobody's watching. And it would add so much fuel to the fire.
Yes.
Which is why I think if you're the league office, you are desperate for Lakers Celtics for the history, or Lakers. I mean, it's not going to be Lakers Knicks, but Lakers Knicks for the market sizes.
That's the best series. So you're right. It's not going to probably happen, but it's the absolute best outcome because I think there's like just a minor amount of Celtics fatigue. I mean, they've been in the finals several times the last 6-7 years. They obviously won last year. The Knicks, the idea of the Garden and all of the coverage and what that would feel like, and even the way that I think that would come across on the TV screen, just against LeBron James at 40 with Luka Doncic and like the narrative of Luka trying to get the title right after the Mavs send him out and the Knicks do and East Coast, West Coast, LA, New York. That to me, that is the perfect scenario for the Lakers.
It would be a monster. That one's unlikely. What about a more likely one that Aaron's throwing out at us that we haven't even mentioned? What about Lakers Cavs?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like the people I do radio in Cleveland all the time on the air in Cleveland. My wife's family's from Ohio. They love LeBron. Like they love LeBron in Cleveland still. It's not like Miami where they hate him. So it's like there's not that tension. There's not that anger. Again, Cleveland's a really small market. The other thing about the Cavs, credit to Kenny Atkinson, they're so much fun to watch. They have so many great players. If you and I watch hoops a lot, we do. But they don't have a star that my wife knows who that is, or my buddy who will watch the finals but doesn't watch NBA games. People aren't like, oh, God, Donovan Mitchell, thank God. It's just
Evan Mobley is the defensive player of the year.
Mobley.
Right, Darius Garland. No, I mean, that's kind of the problem here because I think, there's obviously a very good chance that Oklahoma City and the Cavs make it, or the Cavs and, the Nuggets or the Cavs. I mean, from the Western Conference perspective, you have, even if it's Oklahoma City, you have SGA who, while he might not be a household name, that could be like, hey, we've arrived. However, if it is Oklahoma City and the Cavs, that becomes a problem. So Lakers Celtics, I think, would be, from all the historical perspective, you have the defending champs, you've LA market, LeBron is back, Luka, second year in a row on a different team. And also the Lakers trying to tie the Celtics for their 18th championship, right? Because the Celtics had taken one step ahead of them last year when they hung banner number 18. I mean, there's a lot of storylines there that are pretty good. On the other hand, the Celtics present a great marketing opportunity and a great PR opportunity for the NBA. I'm good on the Celtics. I would like to see the Cavs.
How were the ratings last year when Boston won that series?
I don't remember it being great.
They're not that interesting. They're not that, because the thing is, I think they're interesting, but to the average fan, Jason Tatum is not a superstar by the sort of Q rating. He's not a Q rating superstar. Jalen Brunson is not a Q rating. So for me, it's Lakers, or like if you're the NBA and you're Adam Silver, you can just pick a genie gives you one team in the finals, only one. It's the Lakers, right?
Yeah, for sure.
After the Lakers in the Western Conference, I think the Warriors are close. And Aaron knows the details in this more than I do. If you look at the top-rated NBA games of the last 10 years, you look at any metric you want, finals ratings, Christmas Day games, regular season games, every list is 90% a game that is either LeBron or Steph. Like those two guys transcend past NBA fans to all fans. So as long as you get the Lakers or the Warriors, you're in pretty good shape. And then, throw in Boston, cool. I still just think the Knicks, as a major market that haven't been relevant in a long time, I would be riveted to see what that would look like.
For the casuals, because you were asking about last year. I mean, do we think that Luka is there for the casuals? Because I don't remember the last year's ratings were the lowest since before the Warriors run.
Yeah, I thought so.
Because I think going in, everybody looked at the Celtics and thought the Celtics were the better team, and that even though the Mavs had Luka and Kyrie, they had Luka and Kyrie, and I think a lot of people didn't expect them to put up much of a fight, and they really kind of didn't. But so for the casuals, because I think everything that you just said about LeBron and Steph and their Q rating absolutely matters. For the casuals, are Luka and even Joker on that level? I mean, they're obviously incredible basketball players, and those of us who love basketball love watching them. But are you tuning in if you're just, you're saying you're going to check out the finals?
I think they're like green beans to the casuals. I think they know they're good for you and that you're supposed to be into it, but you're not. You're sort of lukewarm on the experience. I mean, if you're being,
Yeah.
I think that's. I mean, that's the other thing that was interesting about last year's run is I think part of the reason there was all this buzz around the Timberwolves is that I think casual fans were interested in Anthony Edwards because we don't really know yet who the next person's going to be, if there is one that pulls in the same kind of eyeballs this time of year. Wembanyama is the right answer. Hopefully he's going to be healthy.
Sure.
But we're still having the same conversation we've had for years. LeBron or Steph in the finals equals, I think, really good ratings. LeBron and Steph neither in the finals. I think it's a trickier reality to try to
which is
navigate.
wild. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that especially the inside the NBA guys on TNT really like to nitpick this, but you're right. That's a problem if you are, because we've all tried to identify who's next, and it's Wemby, and Ant was talking about it during All-Star break. But even Wemby, like, are people going to really gravitate to him in the same way that LeBron and Steph have dominated the conversation for, however many decades now? It's a complicated problem. Let's wrap it up with team of the night.
I'm going to go Pacers. I'm just going to keep on keeping on with the
You love the
I
Pacers.
love these guys. I really do. And I'm excited about when we get to the playoffs. If it is Pacers Bucks, what an interesting sort of, Rorschach test that's going to be when you look at those two teams if they play each other. I keep saying this. They're so underrated. They've been on this really great run going back to December, early mid-December. And who they beat last night? The Rockets. I mean, that's like a good, they've faded a little. It's a good basketball team.
Yeah.
That's a good.
No, they're a functional
outcome.
Basketball team that, second round, they're not going to get to the conference finals this year, but
but it's not Charlotte.
Successful season.
Right.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're functional. Ththey not Charlotte. They should put a banner up somewhere. That's the third time for the Pacers being team of the night. I've got the Raptors, Bill. Did you see what happened last night with the Raptors?
No.
This is one of our tongue-in-cheek ones. All right. So the Raptors beat the Magic last night. 4.5 seconds left. Down 2, the Raptors were. Sideline out of bounds. Now, keep in mind, I'm just going to set the scene here. Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, and Jakob Poeltl all played last night and all played pretty well. So this last play happens and you expect, hey, we've got our stars on the floor, right? No, the Raptors didn't have any of them on the floor. The most blatant attempt at losing a game and tanking that I have seen in quite some time. So none of them are on the floor. And what happens? Inbound, Jacoby Walter nails a game-winning 3. The Sixers lose to the Wolves. And now the Raps are just a game and a half up on the Sixers for the 5th worst record. Congratulations to the Raptors. Really, it's a W for the Sixers, but Sixers creeping ever closer to keeping that, maximizing their odds. Right now, 46% chance. But if the Raps can pass them, Bill, and they could slip to 5th, 64% chance of keeping that pick.
And they're still not going to keep it.
No, it's going to ship to Oklahoma City. But anyway, congratulations to the Raptors. 3rd time for them as well. That's going to do it for us today. We're going to be back at it tomorrow. Please come and check out our show. But for now, for our NBA insider, Bill Reiter, and good luck to you in Barcelona. I am John Gonzalez. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Check out Premier League or Champions League soccer over on Paramount Plus. We'll see you tomorrow.